There are some secrets that eat away at you slowly. Not the dramatic kind. Not the scandalous revelations that explode overnight. But the quiet truths that sit heavy in your chest, growing heavier with every passing month, every headline, every public appearance where you have to pretend everything is fine. For Prince Harry, those secrets have been building for years. And according to multiple sources close to the Duke of Sussex, something finally broke. Not in a dramatic meltdown, not in a public spectacle, but in quiet conversations behind closed doors, where Harry finally shared details he has kept locked away to protect the people he loves, the institution he left behind, and honestly, to protect himself. Friends describe him as restless lately, watching every headline, carrying a weight that has become unbearable. A legal consultant familiar with the Sussex circle says Harry has been exhausted, overwhelmed, and desperately trying to hold together a version of his life that no longer fits the reality he's living. Tonight, we're exploring what insiders are revealing about Harry's private struggles, the truths he couldn't share until now, the burden of secrecy that has taken its toll, and the moment when Harry's carefully constructed public story started showing cracks that can no longer be hidden. Because here's what you need to understand before we go any further. Harry has always been the emotional one. The brother who wore his heart on his sleeve. The royal who broke protocol to hug children, cry at memorials, and speak openly about his mental health struggles. But even Harry, the most transparent member of the royal family, has been hiding something. And what he's finally revealing changes everything we thought we knew about his life in California, his relationship with Meghan, and the real reason he can never go back. So buckle up. Because this is not the Harry story the palace wants you to hear. This is not the narrative Meghan has carefully crafted for public consumption. This is the raw, unfiltered truth from a man who has reached his breaking point. Let's begin. Before we dive into what Harry is finally revealing, we need to understand what it's been like for him to carry these secrets for so long. Imagine for a moment that you're living a life where every word you speak is analyzed. Every emotion you show is dissected. Every decision you make is judged by millions of people who have never met you, never walked in your shoes, and frankly, have no idea what you're dealing with behind closed doors. Now imagine that on top of all that public scrutiny, you're also carrying private information that contradicts the story everyone believes. Information that, if revealed, would hurt people you love, would damage relationships that are already hanging by a thread, would prove that the life you've been presenting to the world is not quite what it seems. That's been Harry's reality for the past few years. Sources close to the Duke say he has been living in what one friend called a prison of politeness. Unable to speak freely, unable to defend himself completely, unable to tell his full truth because doing so would create consequences he wasn't ready to face. And here's the question we need to ask. What kind of secrets could be so damaging that even Harry, who has publicly discussed his therapy, his drug use, his struggles with the press, his strained relationship with his family, still felt he couldn't share them? What could possibly be worse than what he's already revealed? Let me paint you a picture of what insiders say Harry's daily life has looked like recently. He wakes up in Montecito. Beautiful California sunshine. Multi-million-dollar mansion. 2 young children. A wife who built her entire brand on being strong, independent, and unapologetically herself. Sounds idyllic, right? But friends say Harry has been waking up with anxiety, scrolling through news coverage obsessively, watching every development with the royal family, like someone waiting for a disaster they know is coming but can't prevent. He goes through the motions, plays with Archie and Lilibet, does video calls for various charitable projects, makes appearances at carefully selected events, smiles for the cameras. But people who know him well say the light has gone out of his eyes. That spark that made Harry Harry, the mischievous grin, the genuine warmth, the infectious energy, has dimmed considerably. One longtime friend put it bluntly, Harry is not okay. And he hasn't been okay for a while. But he's been too afraid to admit it, even to himself. So what changed? What finally pushed Harry to start opening up? According to the legal consultant who spoke about this situation, it was a combination of mounting pressure and a realization that silence was costing him more than honesty ever could. The pressure came from multiple directions. First, there's the financial reality. Despite the Netflix deals, the book advance, the speaking engagements, the Sussex lifestyle is expensive. Maintaining security, staff, properties, legal battles, PR teams, and the image of success requires constant cash flow. And sources say that flow has been less reliable lately than anyone wants to admit publicly. Second, there's the isolation. Harry left behind his entire support system when he moved to California. His family, his military connections, his lifelong friends who understood his world. And while Meghan promised they'd build a new life surrounded by Hollywood connections and influential friends, insiders say that promised social circle never fully materialized the way Harry expected. He's lonely, profoundly lonely. Third, there's the growing realization that the life he chose is not the life he was sold. That the freedom Meghan promised came with its own set of restrictions. That escaping royal protocol just meant submitting to a different kind of control. And fourth, and this is what sources say finally broke something inside him, there's the recognition that his children are growing up without knowing their royal family, without understanding their heritage, without the relationships Harry himself treasured as a child, despite all the dysfunction. Can you imagine being Prince Harry right now? You've burned bridges you can never rebuild. You've made choices you can't undo. You're committed to a path that's proving far more difficult than anyone warned you it would be. And you're starting to suspect that the person who convinced you this was the right path might not have had your best interests at heart. That's the internal crisis Harry has been facing. And it's that crisis that finally forced him to start telling the truth he's been hiding. Comment below. Do you think Harry regrets leaving the royal family? Or is this just normal adjustment struggles after a massive life change? When we come back, we're diving into the first major truth Harry has started revealing. And it has to do with the decision to leave the UK in the first place. Stay with us. The official story of why Harry and Meghan left the UK has been told so many times it's become accepted fact. They left because of racist media coverage. They left because the palace wouldn't protect Meghan. They left because the institution was toxic and outdated. They left because they wanted privacy and freedom for their family. That's what we've been told. That's what they said in the Oprah interview. That's what Harry wrote about in his book. That's the narrative that has shaped public perception of the entire Sussex saga. Let me walk you through what insiders say Harry's typical day actually looks like. He wakes up early. Not because he's excited about the day ahead, but because he struggles to sleep. The anxiety, the stress, the constant worry about finances, public perception, and his fractured family keep him up at night. Meghan, according to sources, is often still sleeping. She's never been a morning person, and her schedule tends to revolve around calls with her management team, PR advisors, and various projects that never quite seem to launch. So Harry makes breakfast for the kids,
gets them dressed,
plays with them in the massive yard of their Montecito mansion. And here's what sources say is heartbreaking. While he's playing with Archie and Lilibet, he's thinking about George, Charlotte, and Louis. The cousins his children will never really know. The family connections they're missing. The royal traditions they'll never experience. One friend who has visited the Sussex home described Harry as going through the motions. Present physically, but emotionally somewhere else. Smiling for the kids, but carrying a sadness that never quite leaves his eyes. By mid-morning, Meghan is usually awake and immediately on her phone. Checking headlines. Monitoring social media, strategizing with her team about image management. And this, sources say, is where the daily tension begins. Because Harry wants to just live. To not constantly worry about public perception. To not treat every family moment as potential content. To not calculate every decision based on how it will play in the press. But for Meghan, everything is content. Everything is brand building. Everything is strategy. Sources report that Meghan will suggest things like, let's take the kids to this restaurant. The paparazzi always show up there. Or, we should be seen at this charity event. It's good for our image. And Harry, who left royal life specifically to escape that kind of calculated public existence, finds himself trapped in a different version of the same thing. Except now, instead of palace protocol dictating his schedule, it's Meghan's brand management dictating his life. See what's happening here? Harry thought he was escaping control, but he just traded one form of control for another. The palace told him where to go and when. Meghan tells him where to go and when. The palace dictated his image. Meghan dictates his image. The palace used him for institutional purposes. Meghan uses him for personal brand purposes. The only difference is that Harry had been born into palace life and understood its logic, whereas he chose Meghan's control and is now realizing it might be more suffocating than what he left behind. Let's talk about the financial pressure, because this is another reality Harry is starting to face. The Netflix deal, the Spotify deal, which ended disastrously, the book advance, these were massive paydays that created the illusion of sustainable wealth. But sources say the money is going out as fast as it comes in. Security alone costs millions per year. The Montecito mortgage is substantial. Staff salaries. Legal fees for Harry's ongoing battles with the UK government over security arrangements. PR teams. Management fees. And then there are Meghan's expenses. Designer wardrobe. Constant investments in projects that never quite launch. Payments to advisors, consultants, and strategic partners. Travel. Entertainment. Sources say Harry has become increasingly concerned about their financial trajectory. He sees money flowing out without sustainable income flowing in. He worries about what happens when the Netflix deal ends, when public interest in them wanes, when they've exhausted their royal story and have nothing left to sell. But here's what sources say is the most troubling part. When Harry raises these concerns, Meghan dismisses them. She assures him they'll always find opportunities, that their star power will sustain them, that being worried about money is negative energy that will block abundance. And Harry, who grew up with actual wealth, but also with aristocratic values about financial responsibility, finds himself in a bizarre position. He's worried about money while living with someone who spends like there's an unlimited supply. One insider described a specific incident that apparently shook Harry. Meghan purchased a piece of jewelry, a custom-designed necklace, for nearly $100,000. When Harry saw the bill and expressed shock, Meghan reportedly said, "This is an investment in our image. We have to look the part." Harry's response, according to this source, "The part of what? We're not royals anymore. We're just people spending money we don't have infinite amounts of." The argument that followed apparently lasted for days. Now, I don't know about you, but if I spent $100,000 on a necklace and my partner questioned it, I'd need to have a really good explanation. Like, this necklace cures cancer, or it's actually a family heirloom worth millions. Investment in our image would not cut it. But for Meghan, image is everything. Because her entire value proposition is built on perception, not substance. She's not offering a product or a service. She's selling herself, her story, her brand. And that requires constant investment in appearance. Harry, meanwhile, grew up in a world where actual service, actual duty, actual contribution mattered more than looking the part. Where the image was supposed to reflect the substance, not replace it. And he's slowly realizing that he's now living in a world where substance doesn't matter at all. Only image does. Let me ask you something. How long can you live like that before it breaks you? How long can you maintain an image that doesn't reflect your reality? How long can you pretend to be happy when you're anxious? How long can you act like your life is perfect when you're drowning in regret? Sources say Harry is reaching that breaking point. And the third major truth he's revealing in private conversations is the most devastating one. He's starting to question his marriage itself. Comment below. Do you think Harry and Meghan's marriage will survive this crisis? Or are we watching a slow-motion divorce in real time? When we come back, we're examining the state of the Sussex marriage and what insiders are saying about Meghan's reaction to Harry's moment of clarity. Stay with us. This is the part of the story that sources say Harry has been most reluctant to admit, even to himself. But in recent private conversations, he's apparently started acknowledging something he's avoided facing for a long time, His marriage to Meghan Markle might be the biggest mistake of his life. Now, before anyone jumps in the comments saying I'm being cruel or speculating wildly, I'm reporting what multiple sources close to Harry are saying. This isn't my opinion. This is what people who have actually spoken with him are revealing about his private thoughts. And those thoughts, according to insiders, are growing increasingly dark. Let's start with what Harry is apparently questioning about their relationship. First, he's questioning the foundation of how they got together. Remember, Harry and Meghan met on a blind date arranged by a mutual friend. They had a whirlwind romance, got engaged within 18 months, married within 2 years of meeting. At the time, Harry presented this as love at first sight, a fairy tale, the woman he'd been searching for his entire life. But sources say Harry is now looking back at that period with more critical eyes. He's remembering red flags he ignored, warnings from friends and family he dismissed as prejudice, concerns from palace staff he wrote off as institutional resistance to change. One specific example that insiders say haunts Harry, his brother William's caution. William famously told Harry he was moving too fast, that he should take more time to really know Meghan before committing. That 2 years wasn't long enough to understand someone deeply, especially someone from such a different world. Harry's response at the time was angry. He accused William of being unsupportive, possibly racist, definitely elitist. But now, sources say, Harry replays that conversation in his mind differently. He hears concern, not criticism. He hears wisdom from someone who understood royal life and celebrity culture. He hears a brother trying to protect him from making a life-altering mistake. And he realizes William was right. Can you imagine living with that realization? That the person you cut out of your life, publicly criticized, essentially called racist, that person was trying to save you from yourself? That's what Harry is carrying. Second, Harry is questioning whether Meghan ever really wanted the life she claimed to want. She said she wanted to serve, to make a difference, to use her platform for good. But sources say Harry is realizing that Meghan's version of service and the royal family's version of service are fundamentally incompatible. Royal service is about showing up, shaking hands, attending boring events, cutting ribbons, making small talk, being present without making it about yourself. It's often tedious, usually thankless, rarely glamorous, but it's the work, it's the duty, it's what being royal actually means. Meghan's version of service, according to people who have worked with her, is about making a splash, creating headline moments, positioning herself as a thought leader, building her personal brand while claiming to serve others. She wants the credit and the influence without the grinding, unglamorous daily work. And Harry, who is literally born into a life of that grinding daily work, is realizing that Meghan never actually wanted what she said she wanted. She wanted the title, the attention, the platform, but not the actual job that comes with it. Third, and this is where it gets really painful, Harry is questioning whether Meghan truly loves him or loves what he represents. Think about it from Harry's perspective for a moment. Before Meghan, he had relationships with women who knew him before he was famous. Women who understood his world. Women who wanted him despite the royal burden, not because of it. But Meghan? Meghan specifically sought out his world. She networked to get introduced to him. She positioned herself to enter his orbit. And while that doesn't necessarily mean she didn't genuinely fall for him, it does raise questions about her motivations. Would Meghan be with Harry if he weren't Prince Harry? If he were just Harold Wales, regular guy from the UK with no title, no money, no royal connection? Sources say Harry has started asking himself that question. And he doesn't like the answer he's arriving at. Because if you look at Meghan's pattern, the way she climbed social circles, dated progressively more successful men, networked relentlessly in Hollywood before meeting Harry, it suggests someone who is strategic about her romantic relationships. And being strategic about romance means treating love as a transaction. Let me lay out the evidence that sources say has been weighing on Harry. Meghan's relationship timeline shows a pattern of dating men who could advance her career or social status. Her first husband was a film producer. Her pre-Harry relationships included professional athletes and entertainment industry figures. Then she landed a prince. the speed of their relationship and marriage. When someone is genuinely in love for the right reasons, there's usually no rush. But when someone sees an opportunity that might not come again, urgency is natural. Meghan's behavior changed dramatically after the wedding. Before, she was eager, accommodating, willing to follow protocol. After, once she had the title secured, she became demanding, difficult, unwilling to compromise. Her insistence on monetizing their royal connection despite claiming to want privacy and freedom. If the goal was truly to escape royal life, why hold on to the titles? Why build a brand around being the Duchess of Sussex? Why continue trading on royal status while complaining about royal restrictions? Her treatment of her own family. Meghan cut off her father and most of her relatives with stunning efficiency once she no longer needed them for her royal ascent. Harry is now wondering if he'll be cut off with similar efficiency if she decides he's no longer useful. The way she controls the narrative. Sources say Meghan has become increasingly angry when Harry expresses any doubts or criticisms. She frames any questioning of her decisions as disloyalty, any disagreement as betrayal. That's not love. That's control. And here's what makes this so devastating for Harry. He gave up everything for this woman. His family, his military career, his country, his royal role, his lifelong friendships, his sense of purpose. All of it.
Gone.
Sacrificed on the altar of what he believed was true love. And now he's facing the possibility that it wasn't true love at all. That he was seduced by someone who saw an opportunity and took it. That the person he trusted most has been using him from the beginning. Sources say Harry has become increasingly withdrawn in recent months. He spends hours alone, walking the grounds of their property. He has long phone calls with the few friends who stayed in touch. He avoids social events where he'd have to perform happiness he doesn't feel. And Meghan, according to insiders, has noticed the change. But instead of responding with compassion or concern, she's responding with irritation. One source described a recent conversation where Meghan apparently told Harry to snap out of it because his mood was affecting their brand. Not, "How can I help you?" Not, "What do you need from me?" Not, "Let's work through this together." But, "Your depression is bad for business." If that's true, and multiple sources confirm similar stories, it tells you everything you need to know about this marriage. Because a real partner, someone who genuinely loves you, doesn't treat your emotional crisis as a PR problem. Because that's what sources suggest happened. Meghan identified Harry's deep-seated need to be valued, to be chosen, to be the hero. And she positioned herself as the woman who saw his worth when no one else did. Classic manipulation tactic. Make someone feel uniquely special, uniquely understood. Then gradually isolate them from everyone who might offer alternative perspectives. And it worked perfectly. Harry cut off his family because Meghan convinced him they didn't appreciate him. He distanced himself from friends because Meghan said they were jealous or unsupportive. He left his country because Meghan framed staying as choosing the institution over her. Step by step, he removed every person and connection that might have helped him see what was happening. And now, sources say, he's alone with his doubts in a Californian mansion, realizing that everyone he pushed away was trying to help him. The most painful part? Harry apparently knows he can't go back. He's written a book that savaged his family. He's done interviews that accuse them of terrible things. He's burned bridges so completely that rebuilding them might be impossible. William reportedly won't speak to him. Charles has drawn a final line. The institution has moved on. Even if Harry wanted to return, wanted to apologize, wanted to try to repair the damage, there might not be a path back. And that realization, sources say, is crushing him. Comment below. If Harry publicly acknowledged he was wrong and apologized, do you think the royal family should forgive him? Or has he gone too far to ever be welcomed back? When we come back, we're looking at where Harry goes from here. Because the truth he's revealing raises an impossible question. What do you do when you've destroyed your old life for a new life that's even worse? Stay with us. So we've established what Harry is finally revealing. The exit from royal life was based on Meghan's skewed perception, not entirely accurate assessment. The California dream is a nightmare of financial pressure and image management. His marriage might be fundamentally transactional. The palace wasn't the villain. It was trying to protect itself from exploitation. Which brings us to the most important question. What does Harry do with these realizations? Because understanding you've made a catastrophic mistake is one thing. Figuring out how to fix it, or even whether it can be fixed, is something else entirely. Let's think through Harry's options realistically. This means keeping these doubts private, maintaining the public image, supporting Meghan's narrative, continuing to build a life in California despite his growing unhappiness. Pros: avoids public humiliation, keeps his family intact, maintains whatever income streams they've developed. Cons: requires living a lie indefinitely, watching his mental health deteriorate, letting his children grow up disconnected from their heritage, staying in a marriage that makes him miserable. Sources say this is what Harry has been doing until recently, just trying to push through, hoping things will improve, convincing himself he made the right choice. But insiders report it's becoming unsustainable. The mask is cracking. Friends say he's drinking more, sleeping less, showing signs of serious depression. You can only pretend for so long before it breaks you. This means slowly separating his identity and projects from Meghan's, doing more solo work, rebuilding individual relationships, creating space for independent thought. Pros: allows him to reclaim some autonomy, provides room to reconnect with old friends and possibly family, gives him breathing room to figure out what he really wants. Cons: Meghan would almost certainly perceive this as betrayal and fight it aggressively. Could lead to public conflict. Might result in her controlling access to his children. Sources say Harry has tentatively started trying this approach, doing more solo appearances, taking trips without Meghan, reconnecting with a few trusted friends. But Meghan's team, insiders say, monitors this closely and pushes back hard whenever Harry seems to be creating too much independence. This is the nuclear option, admitting publicly that he made mistakes, that he was wrong about many things, that he wants to try to repair relationships with his family. Pros: intellectual and emotional honesty, potential for genuine reconciliation, setting a better example for his children, finding peace through truth. Cons: massive public humiliation, complete destruction of the narrative he's spent years building, probably divorce, loss of whatever income depends on the Sussex brand, possible loss of access to his children if Meghan gets vindictive. Sources say Harry has considered this path but can't bring himself to take it. The cost feels too high, the embarrassment too great. But insiders also say he knows that eventually something has to give. This means gradually withdrawing from public life, doing fewer interviews, fewer projects, letting the Sussex brand die a natural death while Harry focuses on private healing. Pros: removes constant public pressure, allows him to work through issues privately, gives him time to figure out next steps without performing for cameras. Cons: financially unsustainable. Meghan would never accept it. Doesn't solve the core problems, just postpones confronting them. None of these options are good. That's the brutal reality Harry is facing. He's in a trap of his own making. Every path forward involves significant pain, loss, and difficulty. And that's what happens when you make irreversible choices based on incomplete understanding of the situation. Here's what sources say Harry has finally admitted to close friends. I don't know how to fix this. For words that contain a world of pain. A prince who had everything, who was beloved by his country, who had purpose, family, legacy, security, who threw it all away for a woman who promised freedom but delivered a different kind of prison. And now he's trapped. Trapped by his own choices. Trapped by his public statements. Trapped by the life he's built with someone who might not have his best interests at heart. The truth Harry couldn't share until now is simply this: he made a terrible mistake. He knows it. He doesn't know how to fix it. And he's running out of time before the weight of that knowledge completely crushes him. So, what happens next? Honestly, no one knows. Not even Harry. Some days, sources say, he convinces himself that things will improve, that the financial pressure will ease, that his marriage will strengthen, that he made the right choice for the right reasons. Other days, he apparently stares out at the California coastline and thinks about England, about his old life, about the brother he lost, about the family he'll never get back. And he wonders if any amount of love, if it even is love, was worth what he sacrificed. The burden of secrets has been lifted. Harry has finally started revealing the truth he couldn't share. But revealing the truth doesn't fix the problem. It just makes the problem impossible to ignore anymore. And for Prince Harry, living with that truth might be even harder than hiding it was. What do you think Harry should do? Should he stay and try to make it work? Should he apologize and try to go home? Should he just quietly fade away? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And remember to like and subscribe because we'll be following this story closely as it continues to develop.